Right, they're stainless versus carbon steel. And these days, nearly all knives are made of stainless steel. And of course, you know, the first thing we say is it's probably not if it's a good knife, it's probably not a true stainless. Stainless steel would have 13% more of chrome, be a very hard knife, probably wouldn't hold its edge very well. So in fact, what we call stainless steel knives quite often are not. And this example here has actually got on the blade non-stain. In Germany, they would say rustfrei, rust-free. In Brazil, etc., they put on non-stain. So this knife here is stainless steel. It's it's a food industry knife. It's got a food industry handle and won't rust and won't tarnish and won't taint the taste of your food. And that's what most people use these days. We still find there is a demand for carbon steel, and carbon steel needs looking after a lot more. As you can see, in the first place, they don't look very different, but this wooden handled carbon steel knife, if you left it out, it would, for a start of use, it'll tarnish and go a dark colour, and if you left it out and abused it severely, it would actually rust. So the advantage of carbon steel, not as big now as it was 20, 30 years ago. The stainless steel has come a long way. The carbon steel is still a little bit easier to sharpen and tends to hold its edge just a little bit better. However, today in the food industry, you're no longer allowed to use a carbon steel knife, nor would you be allowed to use a wooden handle with rivets, because it's not hygienic and can trap bugs or whatever. Maybe get some salmonella if you were cutting up chickens and not cleaning the knife properly. But mainly what we're saying is stainless steel knife, when we say stainless, to all intents and purposes, it's probably a non-stain, rust-free steel with a little bit less chrome than a true stainless. The carbon steel, and it's got more carbon. Carbon steel is a very low, maybe no chrome, high carbon content, gives you very good edge holding, not quite as hard, so it's easier to sharpen, but you have to look after it because it will tarnish, and ultimately, if you're really careless, it will rust. We can have a similar story in these two pocket knives here. These two pocket knives, this one's second hand, it's been in my ute, it's carbon steel. I use it to cut up fruit, and as you can see, it's probably not as shiny, but it's still quite in very good order, and all I do is wipe it slightly after I've cut up apples or whatever. This one here looks similar, but it's actually a stainless steel and made in France, so it's got inox written on it. Once again, interestingly, in Australia, carbon steel pocket knives are still quite popular because they've always had that reputation of being traditional, a little bit easier to sharpen and holding their edge a bit better, and they still do. So for all intents and purposes, in the kitchen these days you use stainless, and in the pocket knives, well, it's a toss-up how traditional you want to be, but there's very few brands that actually make carbon steel pocket knives, and there's actually not all that many brands that still make a